your understanding of the topic, but also to understand if you be needing any further engagements with our presenters. So for now, let me just take you through our program. So the program for today is actually going to start from 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. And hopefully during this time, we'll be able to have key presentations on two main topics. So one will be on, both of them are on smart agriculture, but one will be covering the technology or the agriculture solution that is being provided by ISDA. And we'll get to know about ISDA in a brief time. And the other one will be on apples made in Tanzania by a commercial manager from Tamu Tamu Tanzania Limited, and some other basic tips for small farmers to follow when they are farming, or they are applying their farming practices on day-to-day activities. So for the meantime, my colleague will display the profile of our first presenter, Miss Mona Lisa, and she's going to be the one who is going to take us through the presentation on ISDA. But before that, let me just check in the room if we have a colleague from GIZ, because we also need to hear some remarks from our funder and our supporter, Miss Lydia. If you can, okay, my colleague will give her the mic. So just in a moment, our CEO is not with us today, but he has he's attending other duties. But on his behalf, I'm going to give very brief remarks about this program and how so far we have come and what is the basis for this particular webinar. So the East Africa Business Council, as the Apex Private Sector Association, through the support of Business Scout Fund and Sequa Fund, we conducted two studies on the impact of global crisis on the agriculture sector in EAC and its impact on food security. And we did another study to profile investment opportunities in East Africa where we could invest in order to make sure our region is food secure and we could mitigate the impact of the global crisis. So through these studies, actually, we were able to ask the participants to give us their reflection, but also their needs in terms of training, so that if we give them this training and if they get this capacity, they'll be able to enhance their competitiveness, but also they'll be able to mitigate the impact of the global shocks on their day-to-day production activities, and they can become more productive, but also our region can become food secure. So from those two studies, we conducted some physical trainings, one on contract farming and export procedure, which are currently ongoing in some of the partner states through the support of key agri-actors in each country. And on top of that, we identified topics to conduct a webinar series. So this is the first of 3 webinars that will be conducted under this project. And the name of the project is Enhancing the Competitiveness of Agri-Food Industry and Mitigating the Impact of Global Crisis to Improve Food Security in the EAC region. So the other 2 topics for the webinars will be on post-harvest losses, which will be in late November. And then we'll have a very last one on sustainable agriculture, which will be done in January. So we welcome you all to be key participants in these trainings. And the trainings not only aim to expose you agri-actors to the different agricultural solutions that are available and the different practices, but also they give you the ability or the opportunity to engage with these solution providers, so that you can be able to apply this technology to your day-to-day farming operations, but also you can use this technology to improve your farming practices. So I welcome you once more, and let me take this opportunity to welcome Miss Lydia if she has any words from GIZ Business Scouts. Karibu Lydia.
Asante Dafa, thank you very much, and good morning everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I hope you are all in good health. As Daf already introduced me, my name is Lydia Koch. I work as an advisor for GIZ Tanzania under the program Business Scout for Development, Dar es Salaam office. Today, I will just represent the management of the program Business Scout for Development, and also taking this opportunity to thank EABC, who is our partner for organizing this important webinar on smart agriculture. And Daf already said it is a joint project we're implementing under the Business Scout Fund to enhance food security in East Africa. For those who do not know the program Business Scout for Development, it is implemented by GIZ on behalf of the German government through the Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. And one of the core strategic area is sustainable agri-food system to improve food value chain in a more effective and efficient way, so as to be more resilient during crisis, but also create employment and protect the environment and also poverty reduction. As we all know, of course, agriculture is one of the crucial sectors in East Africa. Apart from giving us food or feeding families, it also employs a lot of people, particularly smallholder farmers, and also a lot of youth and women. However, this sector is having a lot of crises. We have observed challenges such as climate change. There has been droughts, rising of temperatures above average in East Africa. We also see a lot of unpredictable rainfalls, especially in some parts of East Africa. But of course, the challenges are not only here in East Africa. Globally, the sector is also in the risk due to fluctuation in the energy prices, disruption of the supply chain due to the pandemic, and also the ongoing conflicts. Of course, all this then impose the need for collaborative approach. Like now, we have all gathered here to foster innovation and also transform the agriculture and food system so as to empower each other, especially those smallholder farmers, so that they are able to adapt first to the climate change, because this is a very big issue currently, but also engage them more in smart, sustainable farming practices. DAFA mentioned already, together with EABC and also other stakeholders in the agriculture sector, we are going to have a series of webinars on various topics to address the challenges that I just mentioned. And the webinar like the one we are going to have today on smart farming will be one that will act as a catalyst to best practices and also use of technology for a secure and also sustainable agricultural value chain in East Africa. I would like to emphasize that we take this opportunity to have more engaging discussion and also be more interactive, and also sharing our experiences and also best practices from how we have been engaged in the agriculture value chain. Thank you very much, and wish you all success in the webinar. Asante, Dafa.
Thank you very much, Lydia. So now my colleague will share the brief profile of Ms. Mona Lisa. Mona Lisa is a country manager for ISDA. Maybe she'll give us the abbreviation for this, or if it's not an abbreviation. Next page, please. So today she will discuss about her organization, ISDA, and what it is doing and the solution that they are providing to farmers. And in a brief, ISDA helps smallholder farmers across Africa to increase their productivity using advanced technologies, but also smallholder farmers across the global south lack the basic information about soil and technical support needed to enhance productivity and profitability. So through their organization, they have come with the new agronomic technologies that will help farmers to provide more information on soil analysis and decision making, so that they can be able to become more productive in their day-to-day production activities. So without any further ado, my colleague will stop sharing now, and we will welcome Ms. Mona Lisa for her presentation. Mona Lisa, karibu.
Thank you, Asante. Thank you, Frank. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I am Mona Lisa Mutesi. I work with ISDA. ISDA is actually Innovative Solutions for Decision Agriculture. I'm here with my colleagues. Bruce Kisitu is our Director of Operations, and Edwin Shio is our Country Manager for Tanzania. Yes. Let me just share my screen briefly. I mean, after that introduction about what we do, I'll just get right to it. Yes, my colleague Bruce has shared our website, so you can always go to our website and get any information that you might need. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. ISDA is a company based in the UK, but we have presence in Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, Malawi. We are soon joining Ethiopia as well. We have projects in Zambia. I mean, our aim is to actually branch out in as many countries in Africa as we can. When I first heard of virtual agronomist, I was really, really impressed, and that is what I hope to do here today. ISDA has actually innovated two tools. That is the virtual agronomist and the ISDA soil, which my colleague Bruce will throw more light on later. Right now, I'm here to talk about virtual agronomist. Now, with virtual agronomist, I'll take a scenario like Lydia mentioned earlier and Frank about the food shortage in Africa. Our yields are quickly declining, our soils are declining, and that's how we came up with a virtual agronomist. You can take a scenario where you have a relative in the village, or even us ourselves, we've had quite a number of struggles with our farms. I mean, you've done everything, you've applied fertilizer, you've used certified seed. I mean, you've done everything to the book, but you're still not able to improve your yields. They're instead just degrading. You're not getting the desired yields that you want to get out of your farm. Now, this is where virtual agronomist comes into play. Virtual agronomist is, it's actually very simple. It's a mobile interactive digital tool that provides farmers with soil nutrient management advisory that is tailored to a crop, location, farming history, and input pricing. So the farmer is able to know the nutrients. It helps the farmer know the nutrients in their soils and how best to manage them. So how it works, like my colleague will demonstrate later, how it works, it generates soil properties from the ISDA soil map, that is our NPK, and it's able to tell the farmer the quantities and blends of fertilizer to apply in their garden to match the nutrients that the soil requires. This has saved many of our farmers wastage on blanket applications, which are quite expensive, and the farm itself, the garden itself, is not getting the nutrients that it requires because we just apply off our heads, or even maybe copying what our neighbors are doing. With virtual agronomist, the farmer gets a recommendation advisory on what to apply, when to apply it, how to apply it, and also gives the farmer the opportunity to estimate his yield and profit even before he starts planting. So the farmer has all this information way before even starts goes to the field to plant. So how many of our farmers benefit from virtual agronomists, like I mentioned earlier, optimize fertilizer application, because now you're using a fertilizer following a particular recommendation. I'll give an example. When you're sick and you go to the hospital, You don't just, you go to the hospital, you're tested, they give you your results, and then they tell you what medication to take. This is the same thing we are doing for our soils, for the soils. So now the farmer knows that the nutrients in my soils are A, B, C, D, and this is what I need exactly to improve the nutrients in my soil. With this as well, the farmer is not just going to go out and buy 5 bags of NPK or 10 bags of urea without any basis. With virtual agronomist, he will go to shop for his fertilizers, knowing exactly how much he needs and what he needs, which is going to save him a lot of money on fertilizers, and yet he's improving his nutrients in the soils, and he's able to also map out the key yielding constraints that his farm is facing. Now, when we're working with our farmers, we work through several channels. We work with aggregators, we work with NGOs, even farmers directly, and some of the benefits that our aggregators have faced while using virtual agronomists with their farmers is, of course, if the farmer's yields increase, this is both in quality and quantity, the aggregator is making money. So that means it's an increased profit for the aggregator, but also for some of our aggregators who give inputs to these farmers, like maybe fertilizer or seed, they're able to predict the input and output volumes. For example, if he's investing, let's say, 1 million Uganda shillings of fertilizer in a farmer, at the end of it, with virtual agronomist, he's able to know, because it's going to show him the profit that he's going to make out of that investment that he's making. So he's able to even predict that whether this farmer is a risk or not. So the aggregator has this information. And we've also realized that with our aggregators who have introduced virtual agronomists to their farmers, it has built some form of loyalty between the aggregator and the farmer that has attracted several year-on-year improvement with the practices that they're using with their farmers. Virtual agronomist comes at a very low cost that is quite affordable for many farmers, and it does not require a soil test. Like I mentioned earlier, it generates soil properties using our ester soil. Don't worry, we'll throw more light on that as well later. It does not require a soil test. It can be delivered by anyone. You do not necessarily have to be an agronomist or to know so much about the soil for you to give a recommendation. As long as you get some bit of training on how to use this app, anyone can use this, can use virtual agronomist. It can be a field agent, extension worker, lead farmer, anybody that it's user friendly, and it provides season on season improvement. Of course, when you use it this season, the improvements you get now and the ones you're going to get next season, because the soil keeps improving season on season. The image on the right side of the screen, I'll just briefly talk about it. This was one of our farmers in Tanzania who applied virtual agronomist on their plot, on their sunflower garden. This is one field. The dotted line is just to show the difference, because he decided to apply virtual agronomist on one side of his farm, and the other side he used farmer practice. Now, these crops were all planted at the same time, using the same methods, just that he decided to follow the virtual agronomist recommendation on one side, and he used farmer practice on the other side. These crops were planted actually during dry season in Tanzania, but as you can see, the crops that used virtual agronomist were able to withstand the dry season compared to the crops on the other side. And again, this is the same garden, but just he decided to split and try virtual agronomist on different sides, on one side. This is just a simple graph to show This data was collected during harvest time in Côte d'Ivoire. We're harvesting maize on the plots that we had done pilots of virtual agronomists, and the orange lines, those are virtual agronomists, the farms that use virtual agronomists, and the blue lines, those are the farms that used normal practices, farmer practices on their gardens. And virtual agronomists, based on this data that we collected, was able to increase yields in 93% of the farms, and many of these farmers were getting double yields. And I mean, they were seeing tremendous increase in their yields when they were using virtual agronomists compared to when they were using their normal farming practices. I hope we're still together.
Yes, we
this is
are.
also, okay, thank you. This was data collected. Actually, we just collected this data this last season in Tanzania that just ended. This was rice in Tanzania. It has so many colors, but I'll quickly explain it. The orange lines, this is farmer practice this last season. And the green lines, this is farmer practice the previous season before we introduced virtual agronomists to them. Then this turquoise green, which is bluish, is same season, but now these farmers were using virtual agronomists. And the purple lines, these are farmers who used virtual agronomists minus top dressing. And I mean, I think I want to believe that this image speaks for itself. We've had tremendous increase with the rice farmers in Tanzania, in that many of them came to our country manager telling him that now you've created another challenge of storage, because the storage we had was able to store our 25 bags of rice, but now we are getting 50 and beyond. So now we need to look for more storage to store the rice that we have grown. So these, I'm now just going to show you some of the images. This was sorghum in Uganda. When we started out with our farmers, many of them were just broadcasting, but we encouraged them to plant in lines, because when you plant in lines, you actually get more out of your garden. And besides that, I mean, the garden looks really nice, but also you have space to walk through your garden and inspect and check any deficiencies, anything that might be wrong with your farm, which might not be the case when you broadcast. But when you plant in lines, I mean, you're able to go through your garden and inspect. These are now just some of the images we took in Uganda. This was sorghum in Uganda. This is rice in Tanzania, Mbeya, this season that we've just concluded. This is still sorghum in Uganda, where we put 2 and 2 images together to show the virtual agronomist plot and a farmer practice plot for you to see the difference. I mean, the image on the right side of the screen, the crops kind of look malnourished compared to the ones on the left side of the screen where the farmer decided to use virtual agronomist. This was harvest time, maize in Côte d'Ivoire. One of our farmers testifying to what he had received after using virtual agronomist. This was sunflower in Tanzania. Still, image of our farmers, excuse me, still an image of our farmers testifying with proof of what they had received from their harvest. Actually, many of these farmers testified that they had never received such big heads of sunflower, and they could not believe that they were getting this after using virtual agronomist. Yes, thank you so much. I would like to, Frank, if you could kindly help me and maybe open Bruce's mic for him to do for us a brief demo on how virtual agronomist works. And I'd like to now hand over to Bruce Kisitu. He's our Director of Operations, Africa. Thank you so much. Thank you, Frank, for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mona Lisa. And just a quick note to give the chance to our listeners to ask questions. But for now, yeah, I think Bruce has has been given the presenter
Yes.
capabilities, so he can
Yes,
present.
it will actually, Frank, it will give them a better view to ask questions once they've seen the demo that Bruce is going to do quickly. It will give them a better view of the virtual agronomist.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Bruce, over to you.
Yes, thanks, Mona Lisa, and thanks very much, Frank and the EABC for hosting us. So very quickly, this is what we call the Easter soil of Africa. We have created a soil map for Africa, whereby at any one point on the map, you can be able to generate soil parameters for a particular plot. Now, you probably all know that the foundation for production, for crop production, is knowing your soil. And if your soils are not really good, then the chances are high that your yield will actually be very, very poor, or they'll be highly affected. So our mission right now is to ensure that every farmer in Africa understands their soil. Currently, soil testing services are quite expensive in the lab, and those that are available take a very, very long time to deliver the results. So just a very quick one here. If, for instance, I choose maybe Meru in Tanzania. I didn't know there is Meru also sorry, Meru in Kenya. I didn't know that there is Meru in Tanzania. So this is a 30-meter resolution map, which means that it can generate, a soil parameters on a plot around 30 meters. So we use this map to pick soil parameters for individual smallholder farmers. So what we can pick from here is, for instance, we can get the pH of a particular plot. So the small boxes you see, those are the 30 meters. So we can choose the pH of different areas. Wherever you click here, that is the soil pH. But we can also get the nitrogen of the different plots in a particular area. We can get also potassium. We can very easily measure the potassium, and we can also measure phosphorus. So these are the macro elements that are crucial, at least for a start. And we also have a degree of certainty for these. So where you see the yellow, we are very, very sure of that particular place. And of course, as you zoom in, you'll realize that some of these areas are residential areas. So this map is available. It is actually free. We give it out for free. You just send in a message requesting for an API, and the team would be able to give you access to this map. Now, with this information, we discovered that many farmers cannot access the map, or even extension workers, and even when they do, they may not be able to interpret some of this information. So we developed a product which my colleague mentioned, the virtual agronomist. And the virtual agronomist, just for emphasis, is a mobile-based tool which delivers recommendation. I hope you're able to view my phone on your screen. So we have two methods of delivering the virtual agronomist. One is using this mobile application, which I am going to demonstrate now shortly, and also using an artificial intelligence chatbot via WhatsApp. So for that particular one, farmers are able to do to serve themselves using our system. So the way the system basically works is that with your mobile phone, you're able to register a farmer, and then we have the nutrient management tool, which helps the farmer identify their soil properties. And we also do monitoring. We do diagnostics of your plot. Why? Because we want to capture any yield limiting factors so that every season we are able to improve the farmer's yield, guided by the gaps that they have. So we address the gaps every season. So if I'm to register a farmer, for instance, I've already registered one for purposes of managing time, but these are the fields. We'll get the farmer name, the farmer phone number, and we also capture the field plus the location of the farmer. Then after that, we'll go to the soil nutrient management tool. So the way it works is that if I am an agent, I'll be able to register all my farmers in the mobile interface. So this would be like my diary. So the next thing would be maybe I tap on the recommendations here. So it would give me the crops, the different crops that we are working with. So I'll choose maize since it is a very common crop here. And the first thing here is I chose a plot. This plot is in Meru. So there are different ways in which we can get the plot. One, we encourage that this particular location is captured maybe in the middle of the plot, but we can also enter coordinates. If you have the GPS coordinates of a plot, yes, we can have it in, or we can even get results from a soil test in the lab, and we put them in the system and we'll get a recommendation. Now, what you see on your screen, this is a plot somewhere in Kenya. This is Meru in particular. So when I registered it, it gave me these values, the nitrogen. So it means that the nitrogen in this plot is actually low. The P is low. This is phosphorus. The potassium is quite high. And the pH is 5.6, which means that this soil is just a bit acidic. Okay, there is some acidity in the soil. And for those of you who really understand this, some crops don't do very well in acidic soils, so it might need some neutralization. So this is the first step. The next step is we get some field history, we get some information, we ask the farmer whether they know their yield when they don't fertilize their crops, so they will tell us their yield. Then we ask them what their current yield is. Then we also ask them for the best yield around the area, so they'll be able to share with us. So they can all input this. Then we also try to find out that do you grow the same crop or was it a different crop? Did you produce a legume? Or it wasn't, then do you use manure? So when you tap on the application, it will give you the questions. So we find out whether a farmer uses manure or not. And based on research, we know that the higher the farmers, the more manure they use, the less fertilizer, chemical fertilizer they'll need. Then we also ask about some pests and diseases. So we ask whether the field is prone to diseases that may wipe out maybe 50% of their yield. So then we go to next, then we ask the field plan, okay? So for this field plan, we get the spacing based on the variety, and then we also ask some agronomic standard questions. Basically, this one can even be filled in while you're observing the plot. That does the farmer do intercropping, or will you do intercropping? Maybe that yes. Then do you use certified seed? Maybe the farmer says yes. And the reason why we respond to these questions is to tailor the recommendation to that particular plot, which means that if I use the same recommendation on a neighboring plot, it may not work, okay, because the practices are usually different. So what would ideally happen is that we also help the farmer to choose the fertilizers that are accessible to them. Okay, so for any fertilizer that is not accessible, we deselect it. Okay, so the farmer will say, no, I don't have access to NPK grain pulse. I don't have access to maybe this. I don't have access to maybe this one. What does that mean? It means that the recommendation will only choose from the fertilizers that are accessible to the farmer. And it doesn't choose a brand, no. It chooses the right formulation that is required for a good crop response. Okay, so then we go to the last, which is the report. So we would now be able to, now the system will generate a report. It will give the farmer details there, the soil parameters again, and then the fertilizer nutrients required. So it is saying that for us to correct this gap in the nutrients, these are the nutrients that are required. Again, most of this information might not be very, very useful to even some extension workers. So it goes down to break down this information for the user. So of course there is basal application. This is application at the beginning of the cropping season, and then top dressing. So what we do in order to optimize fertilizer use, this system helps to guide whether a farmer should blend or use one product. So the reality on the ground is that most farmers use NPK. So yeah, they may go and buy 4 bags of NPK. You know, yeah, for me I bought 6 bags of NPK. And that is usually what happens on the ground. So virtual agronomists will guide you to understand whether blending, and when you blend, it means that it is picking nutrients from the different kinds of fertilizers, so put them together and get the best formulation, or whether using one fertilizer product is the best, and that is why you see 3 here. So in this particular recommendation, it is showing you that if you blend, if you use 3 products, for example, it has chosen NPK 17, MOP, and DAP. So it gives the formulation, it gives how much is required for the entire field, and how much you should apply for each particular crop, and the price. This price can change to the local currency for a given country. Then it has given us the total fertilizer cost, okay, which is $507. However, it has also recommended lime. The reason it has recommended lime is to neutralize the acids which were captured. And then it has also recommended manure, but we can remove that in the system. So that's why you have the 538. So the next thing we ask the farmer that, okay, let us see. So with 3 products here, if we blend, you pay $507 as a fertilizer. What about if we use 1? So I have just reduced the basal products to 1 here. So when you choose 1 product, it advises that NPK 17 is the most appropriate if you really want to use 1, but the price will be $615. Why? You need more bags to try and satisfy that particular formulation. Okay, so it has advised how much you need for the entire plot, how much you'll apply, and then the pricing. So it has also given top dressing what you need, CAN, which did not change. But we can even say, what about 2? If I use 2 products, if I blend 2 products, I'll have $543, as we said. So again, it chooses the best formulation and then the 3. So we say that the 3 products here are much cheaper. So you save some dollars again. So from there, it estimates the yield, that this is the yield that you're likely to get for the entire field. Sorry, this is the kilograms per acre. And this is the yield for the entire field that you're going to have, which is 2.5 acres, which I filled in. This is for just 1 acre. So the expected yield is 962 kilograms. The best case will be 1.2 tons, and the worst is 726 kilograms. Then it also estimates the profit. And here it is telling us that you might make some losses. The worst case scenario, you might make some losses, but we expect you to make some profit. But then you can also tell the farmer, but you know what? The reason why some of these things appear the way they do could be because of your practices. Why don't you prepare the land well? You can use fertilizer, then do your planting on time, maybe weed twice, and also take care of diseases, okay? You know, very well. So by filling in all this, we can go back to the report and check if anything has changed. So ideally, what happens is that there is a slight increase in the yield here. Okay, there's a slight increase in the yield. And actually, a farmer who was originally making a loss is not making any loss anymore. So these are the types of conversations that you'll have with the farmer. And at the end of the day, you can save this report. And when you save it, it is accessible to the farmer. So if I visit this farmer again, I visit their plot as an agent or as a support staff, I'll just view their report and I am able to have a conversation with a farmer, because the farmer will always have this. This report can be printed out. It can be shared via email or via WhatsApp. Yeah. So basically, this is the mobile application. But like I said, we also have an artificial intelligence chatbot whereby you chat with the system and it will be able to give you a recommendation. What the chatbot also does is that it helps you to manage pests and diseases. You can take a photo, send it into the system, and it will be able to diagnose some of these pests and diseases. So I'll stop here for now and welcome any questions, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation, Bruce and Mona Lisa. So now we open the room for some questions. So I think maybe Mona Lisa, you can start addressing some of the questions that were on the chat. Some colleagues were asking about the availability of the application in places like Ghana, and if you can use the application without actually taking a sample of the soil and things like those. Maybe you can start addressing those ones while we are allowing other people to raise their hands to ask questions.
Thank you so much, Frank. Yes, as you can see, I was trying to respond to some of the questions in the chat as well. We also wanted to just show a brief. I don't know if my colleague is there as well, Edwin. But what I can do is I can share my screen and just share a brief. It's just a 3 minutes video, as maybe people also get more questions of one of the farmers in Tanzania. Are you able to see my screen?
It is blank for now, but yes, we
blank.
can.
Has it come?
We can, yes.
Yes. Hope it's loud enough.
Sorry, we cannot hear anything.
You cannot hear anything.
Yes, and the video is a bit stuck.
Oh, I don't know. Bruce, are you able to share your screen? I don't know if I can actually increase my volume too. Has anything improved?
Yeah, no, not really, but maybe you can share the link of the video in the chat.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think
Yeah,
I'll
and
just
people
do
can
that.
be able to see it.
Okay.
So maybe you can go back straight to addressing those questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I can try to address some of the questions. Do I address them by speaking out, or so in Ghana, for example, yes, we are able to initialize the virtual agronomist everywhere in Africa. So in Ghana, we have done some demonstrations in maize. So it is very, very possible. So what we do is that we go through a process which we call an initialization process. And this process helps us to customize the virtual agronomist to the areas. So we do some ground truth data collection, and then look at the climate, and of course we have all this information into the system. Okay. So Nicholas asked that, is all this possible without taking a soil sample to the lab? Yes, it is very possible. So we can now use remote sensing to take the soil parameters which are generated from the map. So it is very, very possible. It is cheaper. It is cheaper as well to use this system, and you get the information, the results instantly. So for those using organic farming, can this still apply? Yes, it can apply if you are using organic fertilizers that have a formulation. The reason why we insist on the formulation is because we visited a farmer in Kenya, and we found them using manure, but the manure had burnt the coffee and the bananas on that particular plot. So for us to recommend organic fertilizers, we need that formulation. We need to know what is in that manure, so that the system picks that particular formulation and then recommends it to the farmers. Okay, because like I said, we don't just recommend a brand. We focus on what is the content, what are the nutrients in that particular brand, and then the system will pick the formulation, the right formulation, and advise the farmer. Okay. We have to go digital. Could you tell us limiting factors of this application? Well, the limitation maybe could be that if you're in a very, very remote area where there is no internet connectivity, for example, our artificial intelligence chatbot may not work because it requires internet connectivity. The application can very ably work offline. So we are just concluding an enhancement of the system to manage an offline, or to deliver while it is offline. So this is something that we are testing, and it is very, 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 very possible. So it is internet connectivity and maybe availability of smartphones. So that is why the way we are trying to promote it is by using maybe lead farmers who have smartphones and can be able to support fellow farmers, or we go through any intermediary who can be an extension worker, who can be an agronomist, who can be, you know, anybody that has a connection with the farmers. And in some areas, some youth are identifying an opportunity, and they are using virtual agronomists to support farmers, and of course farmers pay, and they are able to earn commission from it. Is there a minimum size of plot for your system to be effective? So like I said, it does 30 meters by 30 meters. So we recommend that maybe 1 hectare, that is 2.5 acres. That is just good enough. And you know very well that in soil testing, they usually pick samples from the field. So we say that if the land is uniform, you can even go up to about 2 hectares. But if it is not, then we need to subdivide this land into different plots, and then we generate a recommendation for each subplot. How do we get the application? It is not available on Play Store. What we do is that we first of all have to initialize it for a particular area. So this is not an off-the-shelf product. So we have to initialize. For instance, if you're in Meru, we want to make sure that it is generating recommendations, you know, for the Meru area. If I am in Kampala, then we want to make sure that it is custom made for Kampala, you know, because there are different factors. The climate is different, the soils are different, the practices are different. We also need to input things like prices, labor costs, you know, all that. That is why we do an initialization, but that is not a big deal at all. So we work out a framework where we need to understand how many farmers are going to use it. And of course, with the chatbot, we can very easily give it out, because this is a self-serve, which we are finalizing and currently working on maize. So for the chatbot, we could share the number for you to maybe just try and test. Don't use the recommendations for now. We are launching it sometime in December, but you can test, you know, talk to the system. It will be able to generate some recommendations for you. I think I have presented most of the questions that are in the chat bot, at least, yeah. How much does it cost to use the system? This is from Olivia. Thank you so much. So we are charging $10 per recommendation. So this means that when I come to your plot and I generate this recommendation, go through the process, I generate the report, you pay $10. However, we have volume discounts, and the volume discounts means that if you have many farmers that are going to use the system or the tool, we would reduce the cost significantly. I mean, I can say that we can reduce based on the volumes of the farmers or even acreage. And in some areas where, you know, a number of farmers are using it, we can even go as low as maybe $5 per recommendation. Of course, there is a detail to it, because we usually have some operational costs, and if the user is going to manage those operational costs, then yeah, we drastically bring the cost of delivering the service really significantly low. So our plan or our mission is to ensure that we target 1 million farmers, especially in Africa. As Mona Lisa said, this is a Pan-African company. 1 million farmers, and significantly reduce this cost to the farmer. We are looking at less than $5 for each farmer in Africa. So we are open. We can work with governments, with NGOs, with any partner to deliver the recommendation. Is a recommendation per 30 meters or per farm? So a recommendation is a plot. So we identify the field that you really have, the field where you are going to do the farming. So we have also discovered that there is a field, a farmer has a field, but out of that field, they have a plot. So we can generate a recommendation for that particular plot where maybe you're going to grow maize, and we can generate a recommendation for another plot neighboring where you are going to maybe grow your beans. So that is also very, very possible. I think I see Emma's hand is up.
Yes, maybe we can allow Emmanuel. Your mic is been allowed to you can open it and speak.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I do congratulate you guys for the good work that you are doing. So I'm just wondering, like, can the app maybe have some addition, like for example, can provide some weather forecast information to farmers? Is that doable? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Emmanuel. Yes, that recommendation already includes, or it puts into consideration weather. Okay, so there is weather embedded in it. So when we are initializing, as I said, we look at the weather pattern. So in the back end, we have weather forecasts. We have a system which helps us to forecast weather. So we have both short range and long range forecasts. But of course, we know that the short range forecasts are more accurate. So we use that information to help really manage or help the farmer also predict the weather. So where we work, we try to help the farmers get to appreciate the weather, and then we are able, for example, to advise them on when exactly to plant. That is because we need to also know the depth of the water in the soil, and then help them predict whether it's going to be dry or wet, and therefore appropriately manage their plots. So it is something that we put into consideration. So there's a number that has been shared in the chat. You can just maybe save that number. Try to play around with the system. Just say hi. It will ask you a few questions, your name, and yes, you're able to play with it. So how big is a plot? A plot can be anything, less or anything below or above an acre. So like I said, that we do small plots. This is the very first map that can get soil parameters on smaller plots. So we can do 1/4 acre, 1/2 an acre. We can do something bigger than an acre. So all this is very, very possible. So we want to make sure that every farmer can be able to really know their soil as an input to their production. Thank you.
Bruce, just to add on what Bruce has said, like I mentioned, as long as the soils are the same, by this we mean you can have an acre, but then maybe at the end of that acre, it's near a water body or it's near a road, and so the soils are not the same. So you might find that the nutrients we are getting in the middle of that acre are not the same as when you're getting closer to the water body or to the roadside. So you might find that the soils near the water body also have different nutrients. So we put that into consideration as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona Lisa and Bruce. So if we don't have any further questions, I think we can close the Q&A session. And okay, there's a hand. Let me just see who this is. George Okundi, please, the floor is yours. George, you can unmute your mic and ask your question. George, we cannot hear you, but in the meantime, you can also use the chat if you can type your question so that Mona Lisa and Bruce can see it. So while we are waiting for George, I think there are some people who said they have a challenge to view the video that was shared by, I think, Edwin. So I don't know, maybe it was shared internally in your organization, Edwin. That's why people do not have the permission to view. Maybe you can see how best to enable that so that everybody else who is in this chat and who also is in our webinar can be able to access the video. But also, I just wanted to say we will share the presentations and the recording of this meeting to every participant who is in the meeting so that you can be able to appreciate what discussions transpired during this meeting. So I don't know what we can do for now, but if there's any other question, George, we still cannot be able to hear you. Maybe you use the chat to type your question. Okay, so I don't know, maybe for the meantime, while you can reserve your questions. I just wanted to take the time to introduce our next presenter. So my colleague Gift to share his brief profile. Then we can welcome Mr. David in so that he can give his presentation. But briefly, I will just give you a background of David and his company. Then we'll go straight to the second presentation. So if you have any other questions, you can currently use the chat room to ask, but also you can reserve it for the opening of the second session of questions. So our next presenter is Mr. David. I don't want to mention his surname because I might butcher his name. So he's a commercial partner at Tamtamu Limited. And I know him as a very enthusiastic business person and innovator. Next, and about his company. Okay, so Tamutamu is a company that provides a unique opportunity for sustainability and structured approach for temperate fruits value chain and dissemination of technology, experience, and skills to provide assured market to outgrowers. So the vision of this company is to have a socially inclusive temperate fruits value chain in Tanzania. But for a fact, I know David is more than into just fruits, and he is investing in more than one country in East Africa. So let me just take the opportunity to welcome him, and he will give his presentation about what they are doing and how it can benefit you all as farmers and agri-actors. So David, karibu.
Asante sana. Frank, I guess you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see you.
Nice. Okay, I see 63 people are in the call, so I guess I will have 30 listeners. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Today, I will not talk about ERP system. I will not talk about digital strategies in agriculture. I think I was invited to speak here today for the reasons that I have quite a commercial perspective in different fields in the agriculture industry. I'm quite blunt in my speaking. Yeah, excuse me, but I hope I can make the most of our time here together. And I would actually like to share certain ideas, personal recommendations, which I probably would have loved to hear from someone, yeah, before I started my own business. So let me share my presentation, and Frank, maybe you let me know. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Nice.
Or maybe in the meantime, David, you can maybe just mute your video so that we can have a better flow of the presentation.
Let me see, how do I mute my video?
Yeah, that's okay.
Perfect. Then let me, guys, give you an introduction to Tamu Tamu Tanzania, because we are the guys who are actually developing the apple industry here in East Africa. And for a fact, I know that some brothers and sisters from Nigeria are joining this call as well. For your information, apple production there is possible as well. But anyway, so I will give you just a short interview. I will talk about the market. I will give you an introduction about the company. I will tell you what are the 5 most asked questions and the 5 basic rules for apple farming. Production figures, why I heavily recommend apple farming, what is, as a company, our outlook, our strategy. And then we can actually talk about, is this just self-marketing, or what are the takeaways we can take from this presentation? And then I will give like 2 or 3 personal messages, and yeah, we will have a Q&A session. So yeah, apples in East Africa. Tanzania is importing every year $75 million of apples. Kenya is over 100 million. Uganda over 50 million. DRC, Rwanda, everywhere you have apples, but they are all imported in every supermarket. Yeah. So why actually import them when we can produce them locally? Tamu Tamu, the company was founded 2016. In 2017, the company has imported over 50 varieties of apples from Europe, America, Australia, South Africa, and so on and so on. In 5 years, research and development with producing apple trees, selling apple trees, trying different things at different altitudes in East Africa, we have now evaluated the 8 best working varieties for East Africa. I mean, if there are now some fancy resorts and they want to have 20 different apple varieties or 30, we can still sell that. But for commercial purposes, we're just selling 8. The rootstock is imported from Europe. It's quite important to say it's a disease-free, more drought-resistant, more soil acidity resistant, and yeah, a high-quality product. We are tree sellers, trainers, off-takers, and processors. And I mean, we are farmers, yeah? And we are, as farmers, we are motivated to support and empower farmers. And the profits you're making with apples is great. And at the same time, we're reducing imports and therefore CO2 emissions. The 5 most asked questions by farmers, which I hear here in Tanzania or in Kenya. Number 1, is this the South African type of apples? The one which is sold for high prices in the market? Yes, it is. The genetics we got from abroad, and we can produce them here. Where can I grow apples? We have different varieties, yeah, and 3 of our 8 varieties we are selling are adapted to a bit more warmer climate. But I have to say the warmest I would be selling is for Tanzania, Dodoma. Yeah, for Uganda, probably Kampala. So everything which should be in terms of altitude above 1,300 meters, the better, the higher, the better, the colder, the better. Yeah, so in areas where it's like 1,800 meters, 2,000 meters above sea level, you can produce all our varieties. How much do I harvest? Is this a good business? How do I take care of apple trees? I will talk about in the following slides. Then I give you an introduction to the 5 golden rules of apple farming. Under commercial circumstances, it would be more rules, but this is like more for, yeah, I would call it mid-sized farmers. And everything is on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and so on, guys. You don't have to make notes for your information. Number 1, soil preparation. Yeah, digging a deep hole, putting calcium carbonate, organic matter, if it's chicken shit or cow shit, whatever. Yeah. Number 2 is water in the first 2 dry seasons, which is important. It's a small tree. Later on, from year 3 onwards, small-scale farmers will not irrigate. Under commercial circumstances, you would still irrigate. But what is the beauty in apples is they're going into a hibernation phase, you know, which means they're taking a sleep. So in Tanzania here, in May, June, July, and August, we do not have to irrigate. Yeah, because the tree is actually originally coming from the north or the south of the globe. So they are used to a winter. Yeah. Rule 3, from year 3 onwards, you are removing the leaves from the tree. I mean, it sounds a bit crazy for many farmers here that you should go to your tree and remove all the leaves so your tree stands there as a skeleton, but you should do this. Yeah, it is imitating for the tree, hey, now is winter time. Number 4 is thinning of fruits in a cluster. Yeah, if you go to an apple tree now, which is 3 years old, you can harvest 60, 70 nice looking apples. You could at the same time harvest 120, but you rather have 60 nice apples than 120, 150 all small apples. So I'm going to a cluster where I see 5 flowers, 5 small apples, and I'm removing from these 5 small apples from each cluster and leaving just 1 or 2 small apples. Try to teach a farmer to reduce his harvest in numbers. Economically, it's worth it, but yeah. And then number 5 is, in the first 2 years, remove the small apples. You don't want to harvest. Yeah, strong recommendation. So all the energy goes into plant growth and into root development. How much do I harvest? Yeah, and this is apple pieces per tree. So you see, in the first year, no apples. In the second year, you could already harvest 10 apples, but like I said, removing them. Year 3, 60, 70. Year 4, 120. Year 5, over 200. Year 6, over 300. And now it gets interesting. The tree is reaching its full potential in year 8 with 500 to 1,000 apples per one tree. Spacing depends if you do it conventional or on trellis. High density planting is between 800 to 2,500 trees per hectare. Yeah, that depends always on your location and your capex investment strength. And what I want to mention here is, if a farmer is following our rules, is treating the trees nice, you will harvest in year 8 over 1,000 apples per tree. If you are a farmer who is not following the rules, it will be just 500. And apple trees get over 100 years old. Yeah, so your grandchildren will even harvest apples when you plant them. Is this a good business? Yeah, I mean, in agriculture, that depends on so many factors. Yeah, how will your revenue look like? Your revenue per acre, your profit, gross, net, grade A and grade B. How far are you from the market? Do you market it yourself? Yeah. Is there options for value addition? Are you putting your own brand on it? what are your overheads? Yeah, we will talk about this in a minute, but in general, these kind of words, every one of us as entrepreneurs should know. It's important. I'm coming from agriculture, a technical field, but I have skilled myself in finance via YouTube and so on. And actually, at some point, finance makes fun. FYI. So why apple farming? Yeah, why do I advocate for apple farming? And that quite intensively. Number one, prices for apples are high, like really high. And they can be sold by farmers directly. Yeah, you see in Tanzania or in Kenya, you see apples everywhere, but they're all imported. And you're paying $0.4, $0.5, half a dollar for an apple is a lot of money for someone who has an income, which is maybe what, $200 a month. Yeah, so it's a luxury good. And yeah, many of the farmers we have sold apples, they bring them to the street, and then all the buses who are passing between the cities, yeah, selling them directly. Number two, the water requirements are lower than many other tree crops as the tree is going in a hibernation phase. And for 3-4 months, you actually do not have to water it. Here in Tanzania, we are just watering our trees, the early maturing varieties. We start irrigating in, let's say, August. And the late maturing varieties, we will start watering in September. And then the rain is coming mid of October, early November. So we just irrigate 2 months. Major cost savings. Next one, yeah, diversification of income and higher climate change resilience. I think that is self-explaining. I do not have to explain that. Number 4, apple trees live over 100 years old, providing a secure income for generations. I think it's quite amazing. And yeah, we have the right adapted varieties. We put 5 years research and development into this. So we know what we are producing, we know what we are selling, and we gladly share what has worked and what has not worked. And here in certain areas in Tanzania, we are even off-takers, so that we can say, hey, you are a farmer, you have bought apple trees, we are buying everything from you. What is the outlook and the strategy that we as Tamu Tamu are going for? Number 1 is we are here to develop the industry. That means we are off-takers for farmers. That means we have the right varieties to sell to them. And we bring the education from having already trained over 2,000 farmers, having seen farmers fail, having seen farmers succeed, and implemented new strategies to actually educate people. We have a bit of experience in what we are doing. Then currently we are digitalizing all our training materials. Yeah? And I'm for sharing hard-headed commercial solutions. I want to create entrepreneurs. Yeah? What did someone say just like some weeks ago? Give someone an apple and he or she has food for a day. Give him or she trees and training and you make them an entrepreneur. I liked it a lot. So yeah, we are off-takers and processors for high-end apple products. Juice, cider, dried apples, vinegar, baby food. All of that you have in Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon, Kenya, Uganda. You have that all in every supermarket, but it's all imported. And for your information, the juice or the cider you are drinking is really low quality and you can produce it here. Yeah, and our target now is sell trees to other East African countries, yeah, to Kenya, to Nairobi, to Kenya, to Uganda, to Rwanda, evaluate the right partners after 2-3 years, see who is doing well, and then duplicate what we have done here in Tanzania, selling trees, being off-taker, training farmers, and progress. Yeah, a lot of work to do. And now when it comes to what are the takeaways related to smart agriculture from this presentation, as I was not talking about an app, as I was not talking about implementing drones on your field. Oh, I see. We are producing a commodity. Actually, there should be standing, we are not producing a commodity. That is important. We are not producing a commodity. If you're producing a commodity, you cannot determine the price. You are not making a label on it. You're not making a brand on it. Yeah, you're competing with others big time. Why did we go for apples and selling apple trees? You can produce it locally, and at the same time, you can sell it locally. Yeah, many farmers here in Tanzania who are doing horticulture, they're producing a product, but actually people from other countries are coming with trucks, taking them and then exporting it, which means that the real profit is made by traders. Yeah, meh. Then we have many options for value addition. Making apple wine, for example, is not difficult at all. Yeah, it's not difficult. So in the future, I see people in the village growing apples and making their own apple wine and yeah, partying for themselves a bit. Nice. And something important as well. This has great potential for branding. That means selling a product and a story. Yeah, I want to make money as a person, as an entrepreneur, for sure. I have to make money. But at the same time, guys, see, I'm empowering farmers. I'm reducing CO2 emissions. I'm producing locally food, healthy food for my people. Yeah. Besides the product, I have a story. It makes the thing round. Yeah, here are some general farming tips, but you will see them all online as well. But all of us know that. I think it has a higher value when I'm giving you guys actually like a personal advice. The personal advice that I would have loved to hear, very basic. Go for a niche. Yeah. Currently, the Tanzanian government is working on what kind of crops they should invest, what kind of crops they should develop. How do we get youth interested in agriculture? How are we able that the youth is making a profit? And I say the youth should not plant maize. Maize is a commodity. It has low sales prices. If you're not doing it on 200 hectares and very professional, it is difficult to make a profit with it, like a real profit. Go for a niche. You can put a brand on it. You don't have to do apples. Do something else. But my number one rule in agriculture that I tell people is don't do what everyone else is doing. Full stop. Next one. Don't be a WhatsApp farmer. You will fail. It sounds very like a basic advice, but I'm very seriously want to emphasize on this. I'm getting many people who say, agriculture is a great business. I want to invest in it. I'm sitting in Dar es Salaam, the economical centrum of Tanzania. I'm sitting in front of a lawyer. I'm sitting in front of whatever was his position, 3 commercial people, none of them in agriculture. They say, hey, apples is the next big business. I want to invest in it. My first question was to them, who of you will be on the farm? Agriculture, you have to be on ground. You have to measure things. You have to be able to react fast. Don't be a WhatsApp farmer. You will fail. Next one. Agriculture is hard work. It's not easy to get rich. And I'm meaning this literally. Yeah, people think agriculture is easy and I will make easy money with it. It's planting, taking care, harvesting, and so on and so on. If you're not doing a niche in agriculture and you're able to develop your own brand and your own company and your own product, or you're doing it on 100 hectares, 200 hectares, and so on, it's very difficult to get really rich with agriculture. It's capital intensive. You have low margins for your product. There's risk of political influence, and you need to be on ground. Yeah, a farmer is a 365 days job. It's tough thing. The next one is, and that's I think my last slide. Know your numbers. Watch a YouTube video how to make a business case. You don't have to be afraid of it. Like seriously, don't be afraid. It's very okay. Yeah, you will learn it very fast. It's very simple things. another thing is your time has a value as well. Yeah, if you are doing any form of agriculture activities and you're making a business case, you have to put your own time into the equation. Because if you would not be on a farm working there, you could do another job, which would pay you a certain amount per week, per hour, per month. You have to compare it to that. And I think a proverb, which is very easy but very powerful, is if you can measure it, you can manage it. Why do you think in every agriculture training is record keeping? Yeah, I mean, who likes record keeping? No one. But at the same time, after a while, after 1-2 years, you will get a feeling what has changed, what caused what. And getting a loan from a bank, no bank is giving you a loan if you don't have records. Mid-size, small scale, large scale farmer, whatever. Yeah, guys, if this is interesting for you, yeah, this entrepreneurial journey about developing a whole industry, you can follow us. We have training videos on YouTube, fancy pictures on Instagram, and job posts and so on will come on LinkedIn. So karibu sana, welcome. Yeah, thanks a lot. We can now go to a Q&A. And I want to say, feel free to ask whatever you want. There's a German proverb, which means there are no stupid questions. Not asking is stupid. So yeah, thanks a lot. And I'm stop sharing my screen now.
Okay, David,
Yeah,
thank
Frank,
you very much
maybe-
for.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, and it was very enlightening. Just a quick question, since also we are talking of having food secure community, so people are just asking, is it possible to have an integrated farm where you could have apples and other food crops in the same place?
Frank, I suggest that you are doing the moderation. Yeah, you're reading out the question that I'm answering. So let me answer to your first question. Yes, it is possible. Yeah, all the small scale, mid scale farmers who are planting 50, 200, 300 trees, they are all intercropping. Yeah, and especially in the first 3-4 years where your tree is not of reasonable size. Yeah, I will go anyway to a farmer, and I will anyway go to a farm and see pumpkin, maize, and whatever between the trees. That's possible. When it comes to high density planting, that you would do not with intercropping, but yeah, high density planting is far more capital intensive to set up, to manage, and that would be about 2,500 trees per hectare. Yeah, we are here in Tanzania recommending to farmers 3 times 4 on an acre, which means 3 meters between the trees, 4 meters between the rows. So that would be 330 trees per acre. Frank, please give me the next question.
Yes, we have Alan, who has his hand up. Alan, you can unmute your mic and ask the question.
Hi there, good morning. Thank you so much, David, for your presentation. I'm in I'm a farmer in Uganda myself, and my question is just around whether you already have a footprint in Uganda. I've tried apples, but at a very small scale, just a few here and there for the garden. But I'll be interested to see what the scalability options are, and whether there's anything anyone that you have in Uganda. And then lastly, sorry for the double question. Lastly, I don't know if you had answered the question around intercropping. So let's say, can it be intercropped with coffee, so on and so forth?
Thanks for your question, Alan. Alan, where are you based in Uganda, you said?
In a place called Mukono, which is central of Uganda, central region of Uganda.
Yeah, I know Uganda very well. You have the best food in East Africa.
Perfect,
sorry for everyone who feels offended. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
We have not sold trees on a commercial scale to Uganda. I know that in Uganda there was a player who got bankrupt, and there is some research doing with apples. Yeah, Alan. But I can tell you that I cannot speak for their quality. Yeah, to produce an apple tree is much more complicated than producing an avocado tree. Yeah, it's for your information. We will sell in the coming years to Uganda. But Alan, economically, it is when you buy 1,000 trees. Yeah, so 1,000 trees is one truck. We are selling a tree for $4, so that means $4,000 for trees. Then you have to calculate, let's say, $2,000 for transport, 2,500 to wherever you are. Then you have to prepare your soil, and so on and so on. Yeah, we will expand to Uganda and to Kenya, but as we currently doing it, because we are so much concentrated on Tanzania, yeah, we are in the southern highlands of Tanzania. We are just this year starting to sell to the north of Tanzania trees, but it mostly how we move is, Alan, we are selling 1,000 trees. Some big player says, oh, you know what, apples is great. I see them in the market. We can produce them here. Let me try 1,000 trees. So that's a people with quite deep pockets who will say, let me try it. And then we mostly take their farm manager to our farm for a month of training. So for me, it has an advantage if I'm having in Nairobi, in Mbara, in Arusha, in Kigali, if I have there a serious farmer who's setting up a serious orchard, yeah, because in the future I can use them as sales agents, collection points, and so on and so on. But Alan, to be honest, we are so busy. We are so busy. Like since 3 months, I'm on a constant business trip. Yeah. Yeah, Alan, you can get in contact. You can get in contact via our networks, Instagram, YouTube, blah blah blah, and we can see what we can do. Just know that the initial investment to start when you're not close to us, like everything around 15 hours by a bus, which we can send via a bus. Whew. So anyway, next question.
Great. Okay.
And Alan, I think you were asking about the spacing, yeah, and intercropping. Yes, it is possible, but it depends on the intensity. And I think I replied to that already in the previous question, and that I'm saying 800 to 2,500 trees per hectare. Yeah, when you do intensive, you would not intercrop. But everyone in Tanzania we are selling to, Alan, just that you know, is going low density, 800 trees per hectare, and is doing intercropping.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Next question. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Please, guys, give me your question, whatever you want to know.
Yes, thank you, David. So we have a question from Dennis. Dennis, you can unmute.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. Okay, David, how are you?
I'm very fine, thank you very much.
Okay, on the question about intercropping, sorry to just add on what the other question that just passed by. I was asking about in Kenya. I don't know what other crops. If there's a research you've done on the crops that could be that can be intercropped with the apple.
Everything what is not a tree crop, Dennis.
Sorry?
Everything. Okay. I said everything that is not a tree crop.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Nicholas.
Yeah, thank you very much, David. Which one of your varieties is the fastest maturing? I know here in Kenya, when we had areas like central Kenya, Limuru, trees were taking too long to bear the fruit. So what is the best or the earliest maturing variety that you have?
Good question, Nicholas. Thanks a lot. And I mean, see, there are 2 or 3 players who are producing apple trees in Kenya, yeah? But I cannot speak for their quality. And like I said, the rootstock we have imported from the Netherlands, and we put 5 years research and development, and we are just selling where we know this brings high performance. Farmers ask me, then Nicolas, related to your question, what is the best variety? Which variety should I take? There I'm answering. Number 1, apples have higher returns if you do intercropping. Some are even infertile if you do not not self-pollinating, so you need to plant them with other varieties. Number 1. Number 2, it always depends on your altitude. Yeah, if you are in some areas where you, let's say, on 1,400 meters altitude, I would just recommend you 3 or 4 varieties. Probably 3, I guarantee you. 4, I would give you in the mix as a trial. If you are on 1,800 meters, yeah, I can say, okay, you know what? I give you 6 varieties which will perform well and 2 for a trial. And if you are like on 1,900 meters or 2,000, yeah, you can produce all varieties. So it always depends on the altitude. And apple varieties are from the performance quite similar. Some come in production a bit earlier than others. Some you are harvesting in November, December. Some you are harvesting in February, March, April. So every farmer, I recommend to take different varieties. Yeah, so you can start harvesting by November, December, and you actually end harvesting end of April. So your harvest period is much longer. Yeah, it's much better. It's much better when you harvest 6 months or almost 6 months instead of 1 month a lot. Yeah, so your neighbors and everyone knows, okay, this guy has serious apple amount for 6 months of the year. And we have, Nico, we have a variety which gives you 2 harvests. But I do not recommend this variety because the shelf life is very bad. Yeah, it's a variety which you have in Kenya from one player. It's the variety Anna, which has an advantage. You can plant it in a lot of areas, like not something like Mombasa. Yeah, apples need baridi, cold. But it is a nice tasting apple. It is okay sweet, but 2 weeks after harvesting, it is very flourished. So it's not a good storage life. Fuji, by the way, guys, on all our channels, yeah, Instagram, TikTok, blah, 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 you will see our catalog. Yeah, if you want to have it, you can always write a mail or so, and then we can send it to you. Fuji, Nicolas, is a variety which is okay in year 3, and then suddenly in year 4, it just comes bang. Big harvest and an amazing tasting apple with an amazing shelf life. In a fridge, you can store that apple 6 months. Yeah, so that is the reason we are actually propagating this variety quite a lot now.
Thank you, David, for that. You've answered me. Thank you very much. Looking forward to contact you after this. Thank you very much.
Karibu sana. Next question.
Thank you, David. So we had someone who was asking, will Tamu Tamu introduce any sort of private label like a Chiquita to create a consortium, something around that, those areas? A question on whether Tamu Tamu will be developing a consortium in the future.
Who is asking that question? If it's possible, I would like you to speak out and maybe elaborate your question a bit more. Does it mean like, will we have a model where we can manage your farm and offer the consultancy? Or I would like to know more about your question, the background, because we are currently planning some things. But yeah, I think if whoever asked the question I can answer it better if you would elaborate it.
Yes, it's Giacomo. Maybe we can ask Giacomo to raise their hand and we'll give them the mic. But in the meantime, we have another question from Alice. And she's asking how much will it cost? How much is the cost of initial investment per hectare? How long before the trees start producing? On average, how many fruits per tree? I think you had spoken of this, but I don't know if you would like to repeat, David.
Okay. Alice, about the how many fruits per trees, I think I spoke about it quite intensively. Yeah, I don't think I have to repeat that. I can, for the moment, I can go back actually to the slide and share it so you can have a look on that. And now when it comes to what is the initial investment to set up an apple farm? Now, Alice, we have to look, do you look at the whole business case? Like, do you consider labor? Do you consider preparing soil? Do you consider transport? Do you consider irrigation? Do you consider your OPEX, your operational expenditure? Till you start harvesting actually in year 3, you have to pay staff, right, to take care of it, and so on and so on. And the intensity you're going for. Yeah, for players in Tanzania, I recommend more conventional, which is 800 trees per hectare. For when there are some serious players, you know, there are some crops who will very much reduce in world prices in the future. Tea has already dwindled, macadamia will dwindle, and some others as well. Yeah, so there are some serious players who are now looking into, hey, what can we actually do? How can we diversify? And they will all go for high density planting, which means 2,000 to 3,000 trees per hectare, trellises, setting up trellises, which means like metal ropes in between the lines to stabilize the tree. And yeah, it's a different kind of intensity of planting. But in general, I can tell you, we are selling one tree for $4. Yeah. If you want to plant in Tanzania an acre, yeah, you can just calculate what do you need to dig soils, prepare your soil, pay for 800 trees if you go for a hectare, yeah, and then if you install the irrigation or not. So yeah, we are currently working on a very valid business case for conventional and high density planting for different countries, which many people are expecting we will send them by this month's end. I hope we will make it. But you know, I'm German, time is very important for me. So it would be a shame for me, and I cannot sleep very well at night if I would miss a timeline. So you can write us, if you want, you can write us an email, which you just find on the company side, which means, hey, I'm Alice. This is the scale I'm looking at, and so on and so on. Can you please advise? Karibu sana. I don't know, Alice, where you are based or so, yeah. And I hope I was answering your question. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, David. So I don't know if you have any further questions. Just to give a few minutes for, okay, there's a hand up. So this is, I don't have your name, but you can open your mic and tell us your name and you can ask your question.
My name is Jimmy Kato. I'm calling from South Sudan. I'm grateful to be part of this meeting and especially to get the information about investing on Apple. I would like to ask Mr. David whether there is you have talked about the price, you've talked about transport. I don't know whether that transport also would cover up to South Sudan, because I know we are extremely far. Secondly, is there a way of beginning in a small way, a small scale, and then you grow with time? Thank you.
Hi, Jimmy. Thank you very much for your question. Jimmy, for your information, I've been several times in South Sudan, from Bentiu to Juba, and so on and so on. So I know your country quite well. So for example, in Juba, I would not recommend apple farming. Yeah, it's just too hot, and you need for apples cold once a year. Yeah, it doesn't have to be cold all the time, but it has to be cold once a year. Otherwise, you are not getting flowers. So no flowers, no apples. So in South Sudan, there will be areas which will be of an altitude of 1,500, 1,400 meters. Jimmy, you will know better. But yeah, you need for apples once a year. And the second time is, Jimmy, for sure, you can try with a smaller amount, yeah? Karibu sana, you're welcome to buy 50 apples. You're welcome to buy 100 apple trees. Yeah, I'm just saying, how much would it be to send here from Tanzania a truck or whatever, a car to South Sudan? Yeah, think about the cost. So in terms of economics, I would not advise to go for something smaller. If you say you want to start developing, you want to do trials with planting here 20, here 20, David, I want all of your varieties and I just want to do a trial and error, that's a possibility. Just know I want people to succeed. So in our training videos, in our catalogs, we are very much explicit. What should be the altitude? How do you manage it? And what is your expected returns? I hope I was asking your question well enough.
Pastor Jimmy, do you have a follow-up question or you are satisfied?
I think I'm satisfied. In case there is anything, we'll get in touch with him one-to-one.
Thank you. Sorry?
I said I may need maybe some contacts later so that we can exchange with one-to-one.
Okay, we will share. And I think David also can put his contacts on the chat. So we also have another question, I think almost similar, from Suleiman. He's from Zanzibar and he's asking if there would be a best variety of low altitude for low altitude regions that experience high temperature of tropical weather condition like Pemba.
Suleiman, habari za asubuhi. Suleiman, I do not sell apple trees to Pemba, to Zanzibar, or to Dar es Salaam. Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of requests from there. Yeah, people want to buy because, I mean, see, people there have, number one, they have a lot of money. Number two, they see for which kind of price apples are sold in the streets. But I cannot promise you performance, Sulaiman. Very serious. We are now, by next week, we are funny enough, we are sending some trees to Zanzibar. But that is like really a trial. The person who is doing that, it's more like a ritual from his home where he comes from. It is common when a new baby is born to gift an apple tree and plant apple trees. So yeah, I told the person, hey, I cannot promise you performance. Yeah, so he's just doing it because he said, hey, this is my home's tradition. I want it. So Sulaiman, I would recommend that you are waiting, and to be honest, to really know the effect, I know in 3 years, then I will know how actually the performance is. But it's very likely that the tree will not have fruits. That's my answer.
Thank you very much, David. And I think we have another hand up. Let me check. It's from George. George, hope this time you can speak.
Yeah.
Karib.
Thank you, Frank. Here, I think you can hear me now. Huh?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, David. I wanted to just gathering from the questions from participants. I am believing that there's a common interest in how your technology for raising those unique apple varieties can be decentralized to across the countries that are interested in growing them. So do you have a business scale out plan, for example, with the existing accredited fruit nursery production enterprises in either Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and all that, so that the issue of you shipping out material, which is obviously very costly to, for example, Juba, can be avoided. I mean, you can take small graft material that can be propagated a lot in decentralized fruit nurseries. So long as you have a business plan and a partnership that I think can work. Do you have something like that, or are you looking forward to something like that?
George, thanks a lot for your question. It's a very good question, yeah. I have to say, we do not have a exact, like really in detail, in Excel finance model and so on, Kenya or Uganda or Rwanda strategy at the moment. Like totally, yeah, I have to be very frank with you. Yeah, we have since 4 months Instagram, and since then our roof is burning. Yeah, many people, many people now visiting the farm. Mostly avocado farmers who say, "Hey, we need a new crop, we need something profitable." Coming now to visit us on daily basis. We are getting now visitors. How we will move, George, in now Kenya and in Uganda is there will be a serious player, or probably more, 3, 4, 5 players who are buying apple trees, a truck, they are planting them, and then from there we will then see 2, 3 years later who is professional and with whom can we work. And George, decentralization, yeah, is absolutely is the way to go. And we gladly share, George, our ideas, our information, what has worked, what has not worked, because the market is so big, George. I will not be able to have a market capitalization with fresh apples in Tanzania of 5% in the next 10 years. So the potential is a lot. But I want to tell you as well, George, making an apple tree is not easy. It's really not easy. And number 2, one of our secrets to our high performance is the rootstock we are using, George. Yeah, the rootstock we are using, and we put a lot of money in it in the last 6 years. Yeah, you know, agriculture takes a lot of investment at the beginning. The last 6 years, we put money into it. Actually, to the whole R&D program was privately funded. Yeah.
Okay.
Just that you know. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Thank you. Yeah, sure.
Thank you, George. So we have a hand also from Omari. Omari, you're welcome. You can unmute. Omari? Your voice is very faint. We cannot hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Yeah, so I have 2 quick questions. One is what's the age of the trees that you are selling from your nursery? So yeah, just to estimate the number of years that I have to keep at the farm. And then second question is, do you provide farm management or frequent visits to my farm? Because I'm also based at the southern highlands part of Tanzania, somewhere at the border of Njombe and Mlimba.
Ah, nice. Omari, firstly, let me invite you to the farm. Karibu sana. Yeah, seeing is believing. And everyone here who is in this call, if you're ever in the southern highlands of Tanzania, and you actually want to see it yourself, apples made in East Africa, like properly nice ones, you're welcome. We always have, we always have something coffee ready. Am I
Thank you,
still
sir.
online for it? Okay, I was gone for a second. Can you hear me again?
Yes.
Okay. So number one, I just invited you to the farm. Number two, management and consulting, yeah, for different farmers. There are some things in the line, yeah, but I have to be honest, these are people who have quite some scale, yeah, people who are starting with 5 acres, 10 acres, and people who are a bit around us. So Omari, to actually say, you have land, you have capital, guys, I want you to bring your consultancy along. It's quite an investment needed from your side, because we are not doing this for small scale farmers. That would need to be serious players. The next one, our tree that we are selling is about 6 months old. Yeah, we are making it from rootstock and cyanwood. It's different than an avocado. Everyone can make an avocado. So this reason avocado is a seedling. Yeah, you produce it from a seed. An apple tree you produce from rootstock. It's a tree. I hope I was able to answer your question, Omari. Yeah, otherwise just reach out via email and so on. And everyone who would like to know more, yeah, just saying it at this point and wants to reach out via email, please, guys, don't write me an email and say, hey, nice presentation, how are you? Please write, this is me, that is what I'm doing, that is my location, that is what I'm planning, and this is the scale I'm looking at. FYI. Okay, I hope, Omari, I was able to answer your question. Otherwise, karibu to the farm for a coffee and a chat. Next one.
Thank you, David. So we do not have any further questions in the chat. So I don't know, unless anyone else has any burning issue, you can raise your hand and we can allow you to speak. Otherwise, let me just take the opportunity. Okay, this is Harkiran Situ, and he's saying, have you sold trees to farmers in Arusha yet? Is it cold enough to grow them in Arusha?
Hey, Harkiran, sorry for the pronunciation. Yes, we have already sold trees to Arusha. I was just, I think 2 weeks ago, I met with the regional commissioner of Arusha. But for Arusha, yeah, you know, Arusha is on 1,600 meters. For something that is around the city, I would sell 4 varieties. Something that is lower in the valley, still must be above 1,200, 1,300 meter. I would sell 2, 3 varieties. And if you are going up Mount Meru, yeah, then I would sell all our varieties. So it depends on the altitude. But yes, very much you can produce apples in Arusha.
Thank you, David, for that. So we are nearing noon, and I would like just to thank everyone for taking the time to participate in our webinar today. In our program, we had a session for discussions and any other recommendations. So in case anyone has any burning issues that you think need to be addressed, you can use our chat to do that. But I just wanted to use the time that we have now. We have a small poll for an evaluation to the training that we just had and the presentations we had. In the morning, we had a presentation from ISDA, which was done by Ms. Mona Lisa and her team. And in this training, we were taken through the virtual agronomist, which is an application, and their assistant chatbot, which is an artificial intelligence technology that you can use to ask questions about the different plants that you are applying and the different techniques that you are using. But also we had a presentation from David, who just concluded his presentation regarding apple farming and the different techniques that you need to apply to make sure you have good yields when it comes to apples, and these different methods that he's using and the way that you can reach out to him in order to get yourself started in apple farming. So with that very brief conclusion, I just wanted to ask my colleague Gift to share the polls. And in this polls, one of the question is we are going to ask you if you are going to get in touch. You're going to have any need to get in touch with one of the presenters so that we can link you and you can be able to access the technology or the solution that they have provided to you today, so that you can improve your agriculture, or you can venture into new agriculture practices like David has introduced here. So you can go to our chat, and even David has put in his website and other communication that you can reach out to him. But above what David had posted, we had a question on the how would you rate the webinar? So below it, there's an option to view polls. So I would ask everyone to go to the chat, and you'd be able to see the polls. So once we are all done with question 1, we can be able to move to the next question. There are just 4 questions. The first one is how has the training impacted your knowledge on smart agriculture? And you can just say yes or no, has it impacted or not impacted? So if it is a yes, you can say yes and move to the next question. Was the training and the materials provided relevant to you? Then after you reply yes or no, you can move to the third question, which asks you about, would you like to make further follow-up with the presenters? So from here, we'll be able to gauge how many people want to follow up, and from there, we'll be able to link you. But our presenters have already given their contacts in the chat. You can personally do that and get in touch with them. But in case you need our support, we can also do that for you. And our last question is just, how would you rate the webinar on smart agriculture? Then you can give it a 5-star, 1-star, and so on. Then after that, you can submit, and our poll will be done. So that's all we can ask from you. And before we conclude, I just wanted to ask each and every one of us to open up their cameras so that we can take a group photo for record, for our reporting also. So if you do not mind, I request each and every one of us to open up your cameras so that we can take a group photo. Okay, so my colleague Gift will be taking the picture, and once he's done, we are going to hear final remarks, and we are going to conclude our webinar for today. So I urge everyone, if you can open up your your cameras, that we can be able to take the picture. You are done, Gift? Okay, so I just want to take the opportunity to once again thank you. Maybe before I close, there was one question on the virtual agronomist. I think someone had asked, Mona Lisa, if you're still with us. Someone was asking about organic fertilizer. I don't know if you had responded to this question. Initially, in your demonstration, you had shown that the types of fertilizers are the ones that are maybe provided by Yala and the likes. So I just wanted to know if you had responded to this question. If someone has an organic fertilizer, does your application provide for that? And now you can close your cameras. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Yes, we actually did respond to that. I responded, and also my colleague Bruce responded to that question as well.
Okay, then let me just take the opportunity on behalf of our CEO, Mr. John Bosco Kalisa, to thank each and every one of you for joining our webinar today. We had an impressive number, more than 60 people, and some of them had been dropping and coming in. Just, okay, I'm being startled because I saw there's another question here. I think it's from, okay, so just give me a minute. How can we control aflatoxin in maize and groundnuts? It's from Mr. Singh. I don't know, what are the, oh, okay, on organic fertilizer, I think you had already responded, but I don't know, someone was asking if you can clarify a bit on that and on aflatoxin in maize and groundnuts. Is that something your agronomist can assist, the virtual agronomist?
Sorry, my mic was muted. Okay, what we can do is I'll just kindly request this person to get in touch. Personally, I'm not an agronomist, but we are able, like we are always able to help out with these kinds of questions and information with virtual agronomists, because even when we are initializing, we always have our science team, our agronomists on board to help with these questions that come up, because we don't just give you virtual agronomists and move on, but we keep monitoring and we work together to make sure that these farmers are following the recommendations. So for any issues that come up, our agronomists are always on ground to help out. Personally, I may not have the right answer to this question because I'm not an agronomist, but we can always get you in touch with our agronomists to help with these questions. I hope that is helpful.
Yes. Yeah, Mona Lisa, as you rightly said, I will encourage everyone who has any follow-up questions to follow up with David from Tamutamu and Mona Lisa from ISDA. You can just, I think they had put their emails in the chat, but I would urge them to do so again in case they didn't. Maybe if you joined a bit late after they had shared, you can just go to the chat and see. But also, again, I want to urge, up to now, we only have 21 people who have responded to our polls. But if you can just take time, it's just 4 questions and it's a yes and no answer. There's no any explanation that we need you to put. If you go just to our chats, you find there was a message that was sent at 1 minute past noon, which has a poll to it. It's just written view poll. If you click on that, then you can be able to click and give us a response and feedback on how this training has impacted you or how the information was relevant to you. So as I was saying, I wanted to thank everyone on behalf of our CEO, Mr. John Bosco Kalisa, for making time to attend this training. And as we said in the beginning, this is part of a webinar series, and this is the first one. We are going to have 2 other webinars. One will be done on 26th of November. And if not 29th, I don't have the actual date. We'll be communicating to you since we already have your emails and when you are doing the registration. And the second webinar will be on post-harvest losses. So we are going to have people and experts in the same field speaking about post-harvest losses. But also, in case you have a solution or you have a presentation you think you want to make regarding post-harvest losses, we urge you to reach out to us. I'll just put my email in the chat also, so that you can write to me and we can get in touch on the next webinar, which will be on I think it was on 29th of November. And we are going to have the last training on the last webinar on sustainable agriculture, which will be in January 25th. So also, in case you have any interest in making a presentation, in giving us a video or something that you think we can share with the participants, you are warmly welcome. My email is in the chat. You can just write to me or to my colleagues. I will also put our communications email so that you can you can be able also to copy or to write to them. So I just want to take the opportunity to answer again. Thank you, and wish you a very nice day. And hopefully this presentation and these follow-up webinars will be impactful to you. And wishing you a very wonderful afternoon. But you can also visit the polls again. I would like to urge you more. We only have 25 people who have responded, so that you can respond to how the training has been beneficial to you. So we'll be keeping this open for those who are still doing the polls. But if you have already done so, we welcome you to leave and wish you a wonderful afternoon. Asanteni san.
Thank you. Hey.